Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry.
Hello.
And this week we've got a special guest, first time on the channel. We've got Joel, who's an Arsenal fan. How you doing, Joel?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Right, well, first subject to business today. We've got to talk about the FA Cup, haven't we, really?
The £80 million fridge putting in a great performance again. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I saw when I watched the Arsenal City game, I was thinking, Arsenal were good, but I still think the defence is potentially there for the taking for a top side, although City weren't on it. So I was thinking, what real opportunity is to kind of get through and put pressure on them. And then I saw the starting lineup and I thought, we're not going through straight away. As soon as I see Fred in the team, that's me done. That was never going to end well.
Yeah. I think playing Daniel James, as soon as he's playing, it's not going to be a good day, is it? I think
he'd be great in the Olympics, but he's just not a very good footballer.
He's like Bambi on ice was a Olympic sprinter.
Yeah, he's great at running. That's fine. You can have someone, we literally could have signed Usain Bolt and he would have done the same job as Dan James yesterday. Just run around the pitch, or sign Mo Farah. Just do the same job of running around the pitch and kind of causing no problems, just a little jog round every now and then. Really worrying starting lineup, and then Harry Maguire puts in a stinker where everyone's looking at him thinking, how did this guy cost £80 million?
Well, Joel, you're a rival fan. You're pretty neutral. Is there really anyone on that United team that played yesterday other than Fernandes that actually gets you scared of all?
I think for United yesterday, I didn't blame any of the players. Like if I was a United fan, I think Ole's got it massively wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what has gone in his mind to say, all right, let's play 2 at the back. Yeah. Obviously, you guys have 2 days less rest, which I think is a bit unfair, but it's not like that was a complete surprise. You only had 48 hours less than Chelsea. So I don't know why you wouldn't rotate for the Prem and then not play, say, Martial and Pogba in this one. Because obviously, I know you guys always want Champions League rather than the FA Cup, but Ole hasn't won a trophy yet. So to get one before Frank and possibly Arteta, I think should have taken priority. So when Dan James...
Sorry, I was going to say, to a level, I'll agree with that. It was a disappointing starting lineup. To be fair, I think he admitted after the game, James, did you see this? I think he admitted that he got the team selection wrong after the game. I saw it on Sky earlier, I think. So, Joel, what did you think of the Arsenal game more than anything? Because you were class.
Worsley beat Liverpool a couple of days earlier, but I was always happy, but it wasn't a good performance from us. We just capitalized on 2 mistakes from them, and then sparked it whole half really. But against City, it was different. We played well. Even though we did park the bus again, the 2 goals they weren't fluky like the Liverpool ones. We created them. Aubameyang took his chances, and then we started off a bit slow with the Mustafi and Bellerin poor passing, but then second half, once we just had to defend, stop the crosses, just put in blocks, it was pretty good. So I'm excited for next season, but right now, obviously, we still need a big transfer window.
Do you think you'll get that with? The possibility of Champions League is pretty much out the window, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll get a big enough window? Obviously, you got Saliba coming back in, but do you think you'll get a big enough window where you can buy some top class players to kind of bolster the squad?
Yeah, there were talks of saying that Kroenke's actually put some money into this season, as in not him personally, but he's got money from somewhere else and just put into the club. He talks Thomas Partey for a while, but nothing's really happening. Saliba's coming back. I don't want to talk too much about him because I don't rate the French league at all. To be honest, I think anyone could do well in that.
Fair
But
enough.
I would doubt. I'm highly doubtful that he's worse than David Luiz. So I'm still looking forward to him.
I mean, with Mustafi and David Luiz at the back, you can't go one worse than that.
To be fair, under Arteta, Mustafi hasn't been too bad, but it's still Mustafi. We know what he's capable of doing every now and then.
Yeah. James, what do you think of if United? I mean, we've got such a big big 2 games coming up. If we draw or lose to West Ham, then Solskjaer's gonna kind of eat his words about and about team selection and stuff, and it'll have proven to be a really big mistake. What do you think of the West Ham game? Because they're in good form at the moment.
Yeah, I think it just shows you what a bad position we were in before lockdown. Because since lockdown, every single game's been a cup final, hasn't it? Every single game's been a must-win if you want to do well this season. And I think that's taken its toll, and that's why we've been embarrassed on the biggest stage. Because when you're playing a cup final every couple of days, eventually something's got to go wrong. But I think I'm confident about the West Ham game, and I think if they can win the last 2 games and get into the Champions League, then the FA Cup will be forgotten about. That will just be swept under the carpet as a bad performance. But if we then go from this to, dropping points against West Ham and Leicester and missing out, then I think it's suddenly gone from a good season to a very, very bad season for Ole. So I think there's even more pressure on that game now.
The ideal thing for me to happen, and I'm not sure a lot of United fans will agree with me on this, it'd be nice to put like 3 or 4 past West Ham and know that, because Leicester, that means Leicester would have to beat us by like 3 goals.
Yeah.
And then just lose, if Chelsea lose midweek to Liverpool, which is not looking very likely at the moment with Liverpool the way they're playing. But if they lose midweek to Liverpool, and they've got Wolves after that, and Wolves are still fighting for Europa League. So their defence is a bit of a liability at times, Chelsea. So I'd stick a kind of half decent side out against Leicester, lose the game 1-0, and hope that Chelsea miss out on Champions League, because nothing would make me more happy than watching Frank Lampard cry again over on Sky Sports News about how United have been favoured by this or favoured by that. Whereas yesterday we got completely shafted by VAR when Martial was in on goal. I don't think it would have been a penalty, but surely a potential red card. In on goal, and Zuma boots him 9 foot up in the air. So I don't think we've been favoured in that sense at all. I thought that was quite a poor decision on the part of VAR. So yeah, cry some more, Frank.
I think the game in general, though, I think taking that decision aside, whether it was a red card or not, we just weren't good enough. I think we were completely outplayed. That's probably the best I've ever seen Chelsea play. They were just incredible.
They looked like they had a new lease of life in them. I don't know where that's come from, but I mean, 2 of the goals were mistakes. The first one, I mean, people have blamed De Gea. I probably couldn't blame him for that.
No.
You've got a kind of flick shot that's hit from 6 yards out at you. You're not going to really save it. It's a difficult shot to save. The second one, where do I begin or end with the second one? So many mistakes. Williams gives the ball away. You never play a crossfield pass when you're in your own half. You just, especially a dangerous kind of lofted ball like that, you never do it. That's a rookie mistake. Then Maguire and Lindelof were backing off, expecting someone to kind of do the job for them. And where do we go with De Gea? Again, another calamity. He's making everyone else. He's making Martinez look like bloody ter Stegen at the moment with the way that he's playing. It's embarrassing. It really is. And it wasn't a difficult shot to save either. It's straight at him. I mean, what are these goalkeeping coaches doing? Seriously, what are they actually doing at Old Trafford? Before the games or at Carrington, in training sessions, what are they doing? Are they just sitting there eating sandwiches, or are they like throwing tennis balls at them or something? It just, the handling was awful again. So I'd like to see him dropped on Wednesday.
Well,
Just like a statement.
it's interesting to see because obviously we're, as United fans, we're very reactionary. Obviously, Joel, you've been watching De Gea. There's no doubt he was at one point a world-class keeper. What would you say United should do about him? Would you bring in Henderson back or stick with him?
I think you've got to bring Henderson back. I mean, yesterday, I don't know if you guys know why, but I thought Romero would play because he's been like the cup keeper and he's actually done well like every time he played. So I don't know why that he was playing, but he's finished, and I think that's it for him because he came back first game mistakeless Tottenham, which probably been like your hardest games like from the restart as well. First game back as well.
I think that's
And now,
understandable, isn't it? That you make one mistake when you come back from lockdown. It's not, that wasn't a massive deal, but he's made like 2 or 3 since. I think that's the problem.
yeah, like still even then, like in the big games, it's not like a normal keep error. Like when the shot straight at you, like yesterday's one, I don't understand why he's diving. Like just kick it away, mate. Just stay with your feet. Like from what he was to here, like at one point obviously one of the best in the world, to what he is now, I didn't see any reason why Henderson shouldn't be starting for you guys next season, especially with the way he's played for Sheffield.
Well, he thinks he's undroppable, De Gea. That's the issue. He knows that he's not going to get dropped even when he makes mistakes. So a keeper, it was like Kepa at Chelsea when he was in the first kind of year or so. He was making mistakes, he wasn't getting dropped, and he kept making more mistakes. And then Lampard dropped him for a few games.
Yeah, exactly. So Lampard dropped him, but I don't think Ole has the backbone to do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of right, and also we seem to be History FC at the moment, with the way that he's got some credit in the bank from the last like 3 or 4 years, or he's been there for what I think it's 6 years or 7 years now, and he's been fantastic. But you know, you can only look at kind of now rather than the past, and we wouldn't do this with a striker. If a striker had scored like 30 goals before this season, and then this season scored 3, we wouldn't say, "Oh, he's got credit in the bank and he's just had a bit of an off season." You know, we wouldn't do that. We'd go and buy another striker. So why should it be any different with the goalkeeper, especially one that is, you know, as Joel said yesterday, he shouldn't have been playing yesterday. I thought that was really unfair. Romero has been brilliant. Between the sticks, he hasn't made any mistakes this season, from what I can remember, and he deserved his cup run to kind of carry on. And I thought that was a bit of a middle finger to Romero's face. It's like, oh, you just, you know, you're not good enough, or I was really, really out of order, and he wouldn't have made the mistakes that De Gea did. It wasn't, it just wasn't a very good game at all defensively. My God.
Well, I think Ollie's got to put his foot down. Fair enough if he plays him in the 2 remaining league games, just because I think he will. He won't drop him. But I think for the Europa League, he's got to start Romero every game. I think that's only fair after what's just happened.
Yeah. That could be the end of De Gea after these 2 games. I think it really could be. And why wouldn't you sell him now when he still holds value because he's good at shot stopping and stuff, and a Spanish team will want him, and maybe an Italian side. There's been talk of Juve before as well. Maybe these kind of sides would want him there so he can have a fresh start. He still holds value. He is a good shot stopper, and he's reasonable with his feet, although he makes me nervous at times with that. So yeah, sell him while he holds value, and Henderson is a must for United next season because he's been fantastic for Sheffield United, and you've got to reward good performances.
Now, continuing on from massive L's that we've taken this week, just in the last hour or so, Borussia Dortmund have announced the signing of Jude Bellingham. How'd you feel about us missing out on him?
You know what, I'm not actually that disappointed. I thought I would be, but I'm more thinking of the player in this sense. He wouldn't get a game at United at the moment. He's not proven that he's better than Pogba or Fernandes, and he doesn't play a defensive role. So, fair play to him for going to Dortmund. He'll further his career there, gain value, and Dortmund will do what they always do, and they'll sell him in like 3 years' time, 2 or 3 years' time, when he's proven himself in the Bundesliga, because I'm sure he will. So, not disappointed, and fair play to him. He's chosen the right club, I think. What do you think?
I just think it's like the Haaland situation all over again. I think it's a bit embarrassing for United because obviously he's been to Carrington, he's met Sir Alex Ferguson, he's met Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and still turned him down. I can see why it's a better move for him to go to Dortmund, but I think we can't rely on these owners to get us the top targets anymore because there's so many more attractive options out there. It makes me nervous about the Sancho deal now.
Yeah. Well, after that tactical performance yesterday, I would have signed for Dortmund straight away. I would have. I mean, he's obviously been in the Championship and he's got to finish the season there with Birmingham. So there's been a delay in that sense. But you're right. It's more the performance that concerns me yesterday. About if people that are kind of top players that are looking at United and thinking, opportunity to go there. If they're looking at United and they see that performance, they're going to think twice, for sure. It was just, dreadful. And it doesn't help our cause. And you're right, I'm a little bit more nervous about the Sancho deal. But again, it just got to pay the money. Just got to get it done. Simple as that. Pay whatever. I mean, if they're asking for 120 million, pay that. He's worth it. There's not even a question. So, yeah.
If you sign Sancho, though, who you replacing from that front three of Martial, Rashford, Greenwood?
I think he's got to take the place of Greenwood just because at his age, he can't play every game in a season.
It'll be rotation, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
I don't think Martial and Rashford will be as consistently good as they have been this year, possibly. So if one of their performances start dropping, they could come in for him. He could come in for them as well.
He dropped a 4 out of 10 yesterday, in my opinion. At most, he was awful.
Yeah.
So, and he's been, consistently inconsistent for quite a while now. He's looked a bit off since he came back from the lockdown break. And I don't know whether you guys can notice this, but there's something mentality-wise wrong with him because he seems to be jogging around like he's the best player in the world, like he's Ronaldo. The way he hits shots as well, he hits them. He'll hit a crossfield ball the way that Ronaldo knuckleballs a free kick. It's just, I don't know whether it's cocky or whether it's just technique or arrogance. It seems to be a bit of arrogance to me. And if Greenwood is scoring the way that he's scoring at the moment next season, and we've got Sancho, drop Rashford down, wake him up a little bit.
Yeah, I think Greenwood as well. We've seen he's played so regularly now, and the last 3 games he's had no impact whatsoever. So I think it's showing that it's just an obvious sign that he is still young, and there's no way he can play every single game.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and the fact that he almost had his ankle broken by Oriol Romeu, that didn't help. I can't believe that didn't get given a red card. That was a disgraceful challenge. But yeah, that didn't help. So he's been kind of probably nursing a small injury in that sense. So yeah, I mean, you give your team a chance to rotate if you bring in a bit more quality. Although you can't rotate with Dan James, you just can't. Maybe against Bradford in the Carabao Cup, but I think that's at the moment that's kind of his level. So
He just blows my mind. He looks so good when he doesn't have the ball, and then when he does have the ball, it's like he's walking for the first time. His motor functions just go out the window.
I mean, that right hand side consisted of Wan-Bissaka and Dan James, the two players that, in terms of going forward, are probably the worst right hand side ever in the Premier League. Wan-Bissaka he's he trips over the ball and he's got legs everywhere, and you watch him making a pass and it's like, I don't know, it is like a 3-year-old kicking a football. He just kind of stumbles into it, or I don't know. He worries me when he's going forward. And if Sancho's got him behind him if we get him next year, and Sancho's got Wan-Bissaka behind him, he's probably going to be thinking, "Fuck this! I want to go. Get me out of this place."
I don't think it'd be that much of a problem though, because we've seen Wan-Bissaka get to the byline and put in a good cross. So I think if that's all you get him to do going forward, we'll be fine. Because I think Sancho on the ball down that right side will take up. Like he'll have most of the ball. He won't really want to give it to Wan-Bissaka until he's in a position to cross it, because he'll know how hard he is on the ball. So I think that could be a positive, getting someone in on that right who actually knows how to play football rather than Dan James.
But I don't want to turn into Liverpool and be like Crossing FC, because that's all they do.
It works.
It works, but if you've got a good person on the ball about to cross it in, Wan-Bissaka can hit one in like 50 good crosses. So yeah, slight concern for me, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Well, with us seemingly going a bit downhill recently, I think it's pretty fair to say that Arsenal have been going uphill. You've obviously got two very young prospects signed to long-term contracts recently, haven't you? I think. How do you see the future going forward with Arteta? Do you think there is a future there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone expected the results in the last 4 or 5 days, being Liverpool and City, and I think with Emery, you just couldn't tell there was a style of play. There was no like teamwork there. There was nothing. I think, but Arteta, you can see, okay, we clearly want to play in this kind of football. Although we're playing farther back now, I think that's just to cope with the lack of quality at the back. Just get as many people there as possible to get in the blocks. So I think that will change next season anyway. But we're just playing much better with him. You can see that there's actual like team unity there. By the way, we just celebrate the goals. Like, I know it's a little thing, but you can just tell like Xhaka, Bamiyang, Pepe, these guys want to play for each other now. When we're putting blocks against City, they're like high-fiving each other. Like, that's something we didn't have before. So I think the future's bright. Saka, Nelson, Nketiah, these guys are looking good. I'm not sure. I think the only thing that is the possible problem for us is our board, because we've given contracts to Luiz, Cedric, but not Aubameyang. So only time will tell, I guess. But the sooner we get this Aubameyang deal done, the more hopeful I'll be of our future.
Well, yeah.
John, what did you think of? I wanted to ask you something about your midfield. Obviously, you've got Torreira, Xhaka, Ceballos is a potential buy for this season. But the main story in the last few weeks has been Guendouzi, and his huge. I don't know whether he's been dropped for what he said to Morpay. But what did you think before that? What did you think of him and his attitude?
I've never been critical of his attitude of the pitch. I love the guy when he's playing, man. Because you see Arsenal fans always complaining, oh, we don't have any leaders. There's no one fighting the pitch for each other. That guy did it every time he played, no matter whether it's Brighton or Tottenham. That guy always, he played for the badge. You could tell that. I don't know why he's been dropped. I had the reports that when we were in Dubai or something, he had a row with Arteta as well. So that hindered the relationship. And then now, after that Brighton game, he didn't have the best of times either. But I think if we let him go, it's a big, big, big problem for us, because you can see already the quality he's showing. I think reports are like we're gonna swap him for Coutinho. I wouldn't mind that, but like Guendouzi's one for the future. So if we let him go, I won't be too happy because the quality is there, And with the youngsters that we are coming through, to have another one in the midfield would be great. But yeah, I guess it's just down to his attitude and what Arteta thinks of him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've got to agree on that side of things, and I thought the Morpay incident for that kind of side of things was poor from his point of view. For starters, as I said to James before, Morpay is earning more than him, from what I believe at the moment. But also, I think Arteta might have seen, although might have had a row before, but I think it was that game. After that game, that he got dropped straight away.
Yeah.
And from what I read, he's been training with the 23s. So
yeah, I've been training on his own actually, just on his own.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a sign that someone's kind of out of the club and been kicked out. Then I don't really know what is. I don't think that relationship's repairable. Yeah, I mean, he's got potential, but I think you'd probably take Coutinho, wouldn't you, in a swap deal?
Yeah, I'd rather have Dembele, to be honest with you. I think Coutinho's quality, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather have. I think our midfield is not perfect, don't get me wrong. We've seen Xhaka play well for a couple of months, but how long that will continue for, I'm not too sure. Whether or not it keeps the bias, I don't know either. But is Coutinho going to put in the work that Arteta needs from his midfield? Because I don't think he will. I think Coutinho is not going to track back. He's not going to put in the defensive work that we needed from a midfielder. So I'd rather have someone else from Barcelona over Coutinho, to be honest. If we sign him, yeah, fair enough. Got another good midfielder, but I think there's better options for us as a team.
Would you take Dembele? Because he's a kind of similar case to Guendouzi, where he's had attitude problems. There's been reports before of him turning up late constantly to training and having arguments with managers before, and he's kind of been dropped out the side here and there. So, would you say that as an issue or not?
Yeah, I think the turning up late thing is a small thing again, but like that's what Ozil was criticised for a couple of weeks ago as well. Apparently, constantly turning up late and not trying training, which is why he's always been dropped. But with Dembele, like I talk about potential Guendouzi, Dembele has already shown it on so many levels: Champions League, World Cup. I think it'll be a shame if we didn't at least try to go for him, because he's had that relationship with Aubameyang as well already at Dortmund. I think if we do sell Lacazette to Madrid or something, playing Aubameyang up top and Dembele and Pepe out wide would be like the perfect replacement. Because I'm not a fan of Aubameyang out wide, to be honest. I think he's a bit wasted there. He did get that brace against City. I think he's so much more deadly through the middle. But whatever happens, I think I back Arteta to do the right thing with his team selections and it's just preparation.
I think you need to get rid of the Fortnite King first.
Yeah.
So that would get rid of, what is he on, 350k a week?
Yeah, I mean, he said he's not leaving until like his contract expires or something. So we've got him for at least another season.
Oh my god,
he's basically doing a Gareth Bale, but
down the drain. That's so much money. I mean, and he clearly has no attitude to play whatsoever. He's clearly.
It was a weird one because before the City game, he posted on social media for the first time saying, "Oh yeah, I'm ready for games," like stuff like that. Like even our, Arsenal social media page is like bigging him up. I thought, all right, maybe he's going to be on the bench at least, but there was just nothing. So I don't really know what's going on with him.
Fortnite again.
Yeah.
That's not very good. That's all I can say about that one.
Yeah.
See, I think what must be frustrating about Ozil is we've seen over and over again how good he is. He's on his day, he could be one of the best players in the Premier League, but there's been that many managers now that haven't been able to get the best out of him. it's got to be a him problem, doesn't it? Surely there's got to be something going on behind the scenes for him not to be making like match day squad, even with his ability.
Yeah, I mean, even this season when we played Newcastle, and I think just before the lockdown started, played Newcastle, and he was like just one of his best games. But that's the thing, we're gonna get about one per season from him now. Like last season against Leicester, he just turned up, then again just not he just disappeared really. And I think part of it's due to his attitude, and part of it's due to the rest of the team just not doing good enough for him. Because in a couple of games he's been like good, but people think he's been just poor again because the rest of the team just not on that level he was. And when you see when Ozil was in his prime for us, where he was banging assists, yeah, Giroud was obviously playing good, but it was for me it was Sanchez and Cazorla. That was what made Ozil tick because they were on the same level of quality as him. Whereas right now, I don't think anyone on that wavelength as Ozil is. So I think that's the only problem. That's one of the problems. But yeah, attitude's definitely up there as well.
I wanted to mention as well. Obviously, there was a lot of comparisons earlier in the season about Martinelli and Greenwood. And obviously, recently, Martinelli's had a bad injury at the time where Greenwood's really started to come into form. And I think those comparisons have sort of gone away. But
Yeah.
I was interested to know what you still think of them because I still compare them quite at a similar level.
For me, hang on, I'm moving upstairs. Yeah, I like because Martinelli's injured. That's like the only reason these comparisons are stopping. I don't think it is right now. Just offers more as an attacker. Martinelli's better at finishing. Not Martinelli, so Greenwood. But that's what you want in a forward, isn't it? The finishing trait, if you want to call it that. Martinelli, he's better on the. I'd say he's better on the ball, and it's a bit faster. But yeah, I think the comparisons are like fair. I think Martinelli will be like, well, I don't want to say like Ronaldo level, obviously, but he'll be close to that just from the way you can see from his attitude. Like you talk about like that Gunduzi, Martinelli's attitude's like top tier. Like he's always giving it his hardest in training. When you see the videos on the pitch, he's always working. So yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming back, obviously after the rest of the year, but hopefully that's not a recurring problem.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you there. The thing I like about Martinelli is whenever you watch him play, he always has an impact on the game, whereas Greenwood tends to drift in and out of games. And like you said, he's good on the ball. Greenwood, I don't think he's brilliant at beating a man. He specialises in just creating a yard of space for himself to get a shot off. So I think, yeah, Greenwood's a better goal scorer, but I think Martinelli offers so much more in your attack. He's got.
If you had a combo of those two players, oh my god, that would be one hell of a player.
Yeah.
Is the I mean, we've seen enough from Martinelli to suggest that he's going to be right at the top level. I mean, there's been again talk of Barca looking at him for a potential kind of deal, obviously before the coronavirus hit. But both of those players will hit the top level. Greenwood, I don't know what it is, but every game he plays, you think if he gets half a yard on the edge of the box, he'll score. You rarely see him miss the target. So, yeah, I mean, both of the players will hit kind of top European level for sure, top world level, and they'll be they'll be up there with the best in I'd say 2 or 3 years time probably.
Yeah, I think that what's exciting as well is if they keep hold of these players, I think they're two players who could push United and Arsenal towards how they were 10 years ago, where it was a massive rivalry. They were the two biggest teams in England. I think these two could be the Keane and Vieira of their time, where there's constant comparisons about them. It's these two are the main guys of these teams that are the best in England. So they're the ones that are always going to be compared. And there's going to be that rivalry there, and I think it's quite exciting to look forward to.
It's advertisement for the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 quality youngsters coming through, and you know, we've got. I mean, usually we wouldn't have that in the Prem. So obviously you've got some of the top players. You've got Sancho and well, I don't know. You could name a number of Bayern Munich players coming through. Kimmich is probably one of the biggest advertisements for kind of quality in the Bundesliga in terms of youth ranks and stuff. And then you got Ansu Fati at Barca and Vinicius at Real, and then you've got players like Martinelli and Greenwood coming through and making a case for the Premier League now, which hasn't happened very often in the last 10 years. So it's good for the league, and it's good for both clubs to see. And anything to derail Liverpool, anything. I don't care who does it. I mean, probably anyone but Chelsea. But I mean, I don't care who does it. Just derail them. Be nice.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that Greenwood and Martinelli comparisons have very quickly gone further than Brewster. I think people have now realised that he's a BTEC Mbappe in the way that he looks like a Ninja Turtle, and that's it. That's the only way you can compare it.
That's so harsh. He's not a bad player. I think he's kind of found his level there at the moment in the Championship.
He's a Dwight Gale sort of player. He'll always be too good for the Championship, but never good enough for the Premier League. I feel like that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, he was the hype a year ago, and I mean, it's the same. Harvey Elliott's good, but the hype about him's gone down massively as well in the last kind of 12 months or so. So it's nice to see. And the only other player you could put in that bracket, sort of, is probably Foden.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Again, you're not 100% sure about him because Pep never plays him, so he just sits him on the bench. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting, probably a good 10 years in terms of youth for the Premier League, I think. Next thing to talk about, and Joel, you do columns on the Spanish League as well. The demise of Barcelona, the once amazing. Well, to be fair, they weren't. Did they win the title last year?
Yeah.
So they were half decent then, but I mean Real Madrid kind of fell apart a little bit then. But what do you think, Joel? You're more of an expert probably than me and James are on that sense. In that sense, so what do you think of the demise and downfall of Barcelona?
I think there's a clear issue with management there, because we talk about Ole's team selection. It's the same for Barca. Against Atletico Madrid, big game for them. They didn't play Griezmann. They didn't play Ansu Fati. Instead, they played Vidal, Busquets, Rakitic. These guys, it's hard to imagine if someone told you oh, Messi got 46 direct goal contributions in the league alone this season, and they didn't win the league. How can someone literally give you 50 goals just on his own, and you still don't win? Griezmann, he's not good enough. Let's be honest. He might have worked on a Simeone, but he's not good enough for Barca. For me, Ansu Fati has more of an impact than he does. Suarez is not what he once was. His movement's gone down. He's just not fast enough anymore. He's not mobile enough anymore. And then the midfield as well. We got De Jong coming through, and I don't know why they look at Barca again. Ward definitely has issues there. With Pjanic coming in, because it's just another Rakitic, it's just another Vidal.
We mentioned it on the podcast. Sorry, we mentioned this on the podcast about Pjanic, didn't we, James?
Yeah.
A week or two ago, where that deal made no sense. I don't think whatsoever. And Bartomeu is not helping himself, is he, Joel? With the players he's bringing in, he's bringing in an older player for someone and getting rid of someone who's youthful and got real potential.
Yeah, I don't think any Barca fan was happy with that at all because Arthur was looking like someone, one for the future. Him, De Jong, they could form a pretty good partner. Not obviously Xavi and Iniesta level, but a pretty decent partnership here. Bartomeu is not looking good for him at all, I think. And yeah, you talk about Messi's comments. I think that's enough for Barcelona to be worried. If your main guy is talking like that, one of the best players in the world talking like that about your team, it's not good. And I think the only good thing going for him right now is the youngsters, like Ansu Fati, like Ricky Pre, because he was pretty good last night as well for Barca. So yeah, but Champions League wise, not even close to winning it.
Do you think that if with the kind of Messi situation, I think is he out of contract next year? I think he's got a contract either it's next year or the year after. Do you think that if they don't sort this issue, he'll leave? He'll consider leaving because obviously it's difficult for him. He loves Barcelona. Do you think it will be a big career move for him?
I mean, that's the thing with Barcelona and like Real Madrid, they can solve issues very easily with the money they have. Like one window and suddenly they're back to the top. I think Griezmann deserves like a second season at Barca. But defensively, they probably need a little push financially as well. But yeah, I don't think he will leave. I think Barca will just sort their problems out in the transfer window and they'll be back to where they normally are.
Their defensive issues, I mean, they've got an ageing defence, to say the least. Yeah. And yeah, there's something not quite right there. Management-wise, I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. They seem to kind of chop and change, and Kike Setting's been poor since he's come in from what I've seen. And they're drawing games against kind of lower sides. Lower sides will go to the Nou Camp now and think they've got a real chance of getting either a point or 3 out of it. And people even last season used to fear Barca going to the Nou Camp because it's even Liverpool lost there and they were amazing last year. So it was a daunting kind of prospect going to the Nou Camp. So that fear factor has got to come back in one way or another, and they're not helping themselves with the deals they're making. And Arthur didn't want to leave, did he?
No.
Nah.
That's borderline embarrassing from their club. You've got a player who's young, quality, and doesn't want to leave, and you still push the deal through, and bring in a 29-year-old. It doesn't look good. So yeah, I think that could spell the end for Bartomeu. I think they've got another candidate for the presidency, which is next year. I think they kind of re-elect their club president, and he said that they risk turning into AC Milan or Man United. The United comparison now looks a bit rude, but I can sort of understand where he's coming from. AC Milan I completely understand because they've been awful for quite a few years now. So do you reckon there's a risk of that, Joel? Them turning into the AC Milan of La Liga?
I think that'll be fun. I think it's just like Real Madrid last season when they got knocked out early in Champions League, then just didn't do well in the league. I think it's just once they sort everything out, management window-wise, transfer-wise, which I think will be quick, they'll be fine. Just like another thing for one of the big clubs. I don't think it will end up being like an AC Milan, Barca, much richer, much bigger. And again, it's just Messi, isn't it? He can do what he wants on the pitch. Just needs one person next to him to do it, and that will be fine.
Right. Should we talk about the last thing we're going to go on to, which I believe is Watford?
I've just thought of one more thing that I want to ask as well. Obviously, you're becoming quite an expert in Spanish football. At what point do we start putting Zidane in the same category as sort of a Guardiola and a Jurgen Klopp? So I think what he's done in such a short career is just incredible. I think it's going so underappreciated how good he's actually been as a manager.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. People say, oh yeah, Guardiola's done it for a longer time, same with Klopp. I don't think that matters. I think he's the first manager to win back-to-back Champions Leagues, won 3 of them, 2 La Ligas already in what, like 5, 6 seasons. He's one of the best, in my opinion. I don't think he's Guardiola level yet, because you do have to give Guardiola credit for his longevity, but Zidane's up there, man. I think he can make it and one of the bigger clubs as well if he were to leave City again.
I think the fact that Zidane's already won more Champions Leagues than Pep, spent a fraction of the amount of money, and he's only been a full-time manager for what, 6 years?
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. Like the ceiling he's got is unreal. I think Madrid could be a dominating force in Europe if he wouldn't have taken that little break a couple of years ago. I think if they'd have carried on, I think there's a potential that even Ronaldo stays if Zidane stays on. And then where would they be now?
Well, he's won the league with an underperforming side. That's what baffles me as well. He's won the league with Hazard's just come out and said he's had his worst season ever, he thinks. And, you know, they've been heavily reliant on Benzema for goals, who, although he's consistently scored like 15 per season, he's really turned up this year. Ramos has been fantastic. And their midfield, which looked a bit frail when Zidane left, is the same, but it's, you know, performing 10 times better. So it is the kind of managerial side of things, and I agree with James on this. I think he might not be at the level of Pep yet, but it won't be long. It really won't be long. And you don't win Champions Leagues if you're a bad manager. It's simple as that. You just don't, because you have to be tactically aware to win big trophies. So Real Madrid are a threat, and it will be interesting because they've got City away, and you know that'll be the test for Zidane. And if they win that, if they come through that and go through, you know, and I think they might, because they're, you know, City aren't performing well and Real Madrid are, then, you know, we could see a kind of change in our estimations of different managers, for sure. Shall we talk about Watford?
Yeah, I feel like we've got to, haven't we?
I mean, from my point of view, I use many words to describe situations like this, but disgraceful is probably the one that I can use most now, because who on earth brings a manager in to keep you safe? I think they were 6 points adrift when he was brought in, Nigel Pearson. He is now 3 points above the relegation zone. Although their performances haven't been fantastic in the last few weeks, he's still got them out of that situation. And with 2 games to go, is sacked. So I think, I hope Watford go down now. It'd be really nice if they did. Just as karma for their owners. I'm sure their fans completely disagree with the decision. Some of them do, some of them don't. But what do you guys think?
I think the decision's just mental. So I was reading something. I think Pearson's points per game so far, if spread out across the whole season, he would have had 45 points this year, which would have been Watford's second ever best Premier League finish. And they've sacked him. I think.
Wow.
With 2 games to go as well, what sort of difference are you thinking it'll make? They lost against a good West Ham team. This isn't a poor West Ham team. This is the same West Ham team that beat Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. That's not a result you should be reacting over. They're 3 points above the drop zone with 2 of the worst teams the Premier League have ever seen at the minute, in Villa and Bournemouth. Neither of them can buy a win. I'd say they need 1 point to secure safety out of 2 games, assuming Villa and Bournemouth win both of their remaining. Well, they can't. Bournemouth can only win 1 game.
Yeah. Exactly. Joel, what do you think?
I think he's just been massively disrespected there. I think I saw a stat saying that since he's come in, he's got more points than Leicester, Newcastle, West Ham, and a couple other teams. Fair enough. Like, I heard he had a disagreement with the owners, but what he's done, he's kept Watford up in the Prem, which is just financially just so huge for a club like Watford as well. And yet, I mean, the last 2 games are like Arsenal and City, so not exactly the easiest 2 games. So I don't know why they would just sack him like that and give someone the lead for these last 2 games, whereas you could have had a manager who's given them a fighting chance to lead them into 2 big games and possibly even get that win against one of them. It's just massively disrespectful for him, to be honest.
Well, they could do what they did before. I think they didn't they sack, was it Sanchez Flores or Mazzari? I can't remember, one of the two. And then they brought him back in a year later, and he did exactly the same job. So their decision making in terms of management, besides the Pearson one, has been pretty awful. So, and he, it's horrible, and he might have disagreed with the owners, but at least let him see out the season, and and then maybe you can push forward after that. But he was brought in to keep them safe, and relieving him of his duties with 2 games to go, when you're still in a relegation battle, that's I don't know. It's just idiotic. It makes no sense.
Well,
So I have sympathy for the fans.
what I found strange as well is that he's clearly not lost the dressing room. Like, yeah, they had a bad first half against West Ham, went 3-0 down, and they'd scored in the second half within 5 minutes. So he clearly gave them some sort of team talk to pick them up, and they had a much better second half. So that dressing room still believes in him, which makes me think if he's gone, these players aren't going to be happy. They're not going to play in a way that will come across as happy, and they're even more likely to go down now because they've just lost a manager that they quite clearly had a lot of faith in.
Yeah, I mean the players need to believe in what they're doing. That's what's always been the case with a lot of players, and that's why managers fall out with players at times, because they don't believe in the kind of style and mentality of the manager. And Nigel Pearson's a very feisty guy. Everyone knows that. He's quite aggressive with his style of managing, and on the touchline he's quite forceful. But if that keeps you up in the Premier League, he's done it with Leicester before, and if that keeps you up, then it's clearly working. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird decision. And James, you're right with the West Ham comment, because they're in good form. They're not a side that you can just mess around with and beat easily. I know they battered Norwich, but that's not, to be fair, it's not a very difficult task. But still, they've been putting in some good performances, not just the results. So can't be overly critical of them losing that game, and neither can Watford fans. Again, it's too reactionary. I've said before about Villa and their mentality, that lower mentality. Know your place as a club, not in a horrible way, sort of, I guess, but not meant to be in a horrible way. But know your place as a club and as a fan base. Their place is not in the top half of the table. It's not. They don't spend enough money to get there. So they're a mid-table side. So, know your place, and same with the owners, because they will pay the price if they're not careful. And they'll become a Villa, a yo-yo club.
I think it's interesting to see as well, because I think it was, a day or 2 before or after, the exact same thing happened with Huddersfield. So they had the Crowley brothers in. They brought them in to get them survival. The game after they confirm their mathematical survival, they get sacked.
Yeah, that made no sense to me either. Joel, what do you think of that, the Huddersfield decision?
I don't understand any of these. Like, I'm not too sure how Huddersfield work in like how they normally do it. Like we know Watford have a history of sacking and hiring managers every now and then. Like you already see a manager in for more of the season there. I'm not sure how to do it at Huddersfield, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's exactly what you said. Know your place. You know you're not going to be one of the best sides. So if someone's coming to do a job to just guarantee safety, they've done that. The least they deserve is another chance the next season to prove, all right, I can get even higher now the next season. But I'm not sure what's going on at Huddersfield ownership-wise, similar to Watford. But again, it's just disrespectful, isn't it?
He brought them in to save them from going down to League One, and they secured safety, beating the team that are second in the table at the weekend. So that's not a bad result, beating a team that are chasing promotion, and it was a must-win game for West Brom. What it looked like it would be at the time, and secure safety and then get sacked. Surely that's the win is an incentive to kind of push on next season, and he can build his own squad, and the brothers can build their own squad, and they can push forward and try and get promotion. But again, it's so disrespectful to the management. It really is. It's terrible, and yeah, they should know their place as a club. They're not a top club. They should stop acting like one. They had a one-off season in the Premier League. They weren't expected to go up. They were expected to go down when they came up, which says a lot about the club. So yeah, they should know their place, and I hope it backfires for the club, because I think it's a really kind of nasty decision to make for both clubs.
Yeah, well, I think unless anyone's got anything else to say, we'll end it off that then.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, Heather, thanks for watching. Thanks to Joel for giving us a bit of his time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we'll hopefully see you next week with, we'll have finished the league next week. We'll know whether we've got Champions League or not. We'll know whether Arsenal have bottled the Europa League or not. If they've managed to overcome the mighty Burnley. Yeah,
and if you want to come on next week, Joel will do an FA Cup preview. Big,
no problem.
Right, well, as we said, thanks for watching. Thanks to Joel, and we'll see you next week.